Customs chief announced that the government has initiated efforts to address the protesters' concerns about rising food prices and related costs. Specifically, the federal government, he said, is actively implementing a multi-pronged strategy to combat food inflation, including fiscal policies and targeted interventions. Now, one such intervention involves the recent distribution of essential food items from the National Grain Reserves, which occurred about a month ago. Now, public affairs analyst and Mustafa Iwinla joins me now for more conversations on this topic. Good morning to you, Mustafa.
Good morning, Justin. Thank you for having me.
All right, a whole lot is going on with all that happened since last week with the protest and the president and broadcast, and Nigerians still saying that their demands were not met during the president's speech, and how they still are battling with food crisis. The customs chief is in the news. Yesterday they had a Security Council meeting and where he talked about import waivers and customs duty. But let's talk about food security generally before we get into the specifics now. Going back to what the president said in his speech and the reality on ground, would you really say that food security is going to be stemmed in the bud anytime soon?
Okay, so to cut to the chase, I think it is very important that we, even look at the root cause of this problem. You see, the issue of our national security is not something we should play politics with. The issue with our socio-economic problems is not also something we should play politics with. So I tell you that if you have studied what happened in the past couple of days, you will see that the major cause of this protest is food inflation. And if you want to even look at it further, even general inflation on other goods and services. And I think that for the custom boss to come up with that policy, I think is a step in the right direction. But also, I also fear that it might cripple our local farmers. So the thing, so the fact that it's for a short period of time makes it make sense, because if we reduce the cost of import duties, if we reduce the cost of tax that people pay to import most of the food items that we consume right now, because obviously we don't, manufacture a lot of the things we consume here for now, and that's why we're saying that our local farmers needs to be, there should be some sort of intervention for them. They cannot look at what Taraba State just did, the tractors and all that. Those are measures to help improve that sector. Food is a big problem, and again, let me tell you, it's not only in Nigeria that we have food inflation, but it's just that our food inflation in Nigeria right now is on the rise. Currently, our food inflation right now is put to about 40%. The general inflation is put to about 38%. In the United Kingdom, their general inflation is about, let's say 4%. Food inflation is about 1.5%. In America, their general inflation is about 2.5%. Food inflation is about 5.8%. So you see that the way our inflation is going in Nigeria, it is on the rise, and that's why people can no longer food in Nigeria now is now luxury. Food that's supposed to be an essential thing is now luxury in Nigeria, and that's why we're saying that we cannot continue like this. If you look at, again, all the issue of, say, the slightest issue, we come up with palliatives of distributing rice. Those are one of the problems we're having. If you go to the UK, for example, they pay child support when you give birth. When you're out of job, they give you benefits pending when you get a job again. So these are socio-economic problems that our government also needs to look into. We have thousands of Nigerian youth that are jobless. The government is not looking at them. That's why there's a lot. That's why you look at what is happening in the north. Taraba, Kaduna, all these states are currently in a mess. In fact, most of them have declared curfew. Go to Kano, the protest was, it took a different turn entirely. The police got overwhelmed, and that's one of the issues. So in a country where we have 371,000 policemen, and we have 220 million Nigerians, it is difficult to curtail issues when they happen, when they go out of hand, because obviously there's a power in the numbers of the people. But so generally, I think that for the customs to come up with reduction in the import duties and taxes is a good idea, is a novel idea. But I just think that we should also be careful not to cripple our local farmers.
Production. I get all of that now, but the question would be, if they are given such waivers and tax holidays for food importation, and it's just for a short time, after that particular time elapses, what happens to the price of commodity, specifically food stuff? It brings me to something you talked about, Taraba, trying to boost its agricultural production, by giving them tractors to farmers. So how come other state governors are not actually following suit? Because the lands belong to the government. So how come they have this expanse of land and they're not really doing so much in terms of boosting local production of food?
So again, what Taraba state governor has done is a step in the right direction to help cushion a lot of effects for the local farmers there. Because one of the issues farmers are facing is that they don't have tools to work with. If you know the cost of those tractors, it's a lot of money to purchase one unit. So if they don't have tools to work with, and it's difficult to do everything manually, these days you can grow products, and within a couple of weeks, if you have the right tools, they begin to germinate with the right tools and fertilizers. And again, if we do not solve our food security issues, the problem. So other governors of other states, other 35 states also need to look inward too. We must, incentivize our farmers. We must look at ways to provide, tools for them to work with, and also give them, incentives like loans, grants, for them to be able to be, because if you look at the one of the issues that we're having now, the cost of production by these farmers is alarming. In a country where farmers will build roads to their farm, in a country where farmers will generate their own power, in the countries where farmers will generate their own water, is a problem. So that's why when they put out these prices for these food items, a tuber of yam, the last time I checked, is close to almost 8,000 naira.
True.
8,000 naira. I had to go to the market myself some weeks ago. I'm like, how did we even get here? So most times when my wife tells me this is the cost, I feel maybe she's even trying to inflate things back. But I had to go to the market myself last week, and it was, so it was just a complete disaster. So I think that again, all other state governors, particularly the states that have these land masses, the good thing, the north, that's why a lot of these farm productions are done from the north, because they have very reasonable land mass for them to work with, and we need to just look inward and also make them have this level playing ground where and also an enabling environment for them to farm effectively. And so when those items are being produced, then it's going to be able to be distributed around the 36 states, and it will drastically reduce the price for food. Everybody is shouting, there's no food, there's hunger in the land. You saw those protesting in the north, they were shouting, there's hunger. That's so. Anybody who is angry will be pushed to do a lot of things. You can see the complete disaster, total breakdown of lawlessness in the north going on right now. And that's why even the governors could not curtail it. That's why they had to declare curfew.
Okay, over time, the federal government says that it is distributing grains, millet, corn, and some of them, these seedlings to farmers. But over time, I've had to speak with people who are really involved in farming. They say that sometimes most of these incentives that the federal government brings about does not really get to the farmers themselves, the core farmers. That he mentioned something, one of my guests one time mentioned something as political farmers, that these interventions and these so-called seedlings or even grants for farmers don't get to those who actually need them.
Yes, that's not far-fetched. We in a country where grants are being given and incentives are given, but it does not get to those that actually need it. Look at it played out during the past few days, where some certain governors were giving bag of rice, and it was, and we saw alleged videos on Instagram where people were rebagging those bag of rice for resale. Those are bag of rice that was supposed to be for the commoners, the hungry people. So these are issues. Even during the time of COVID-19, we saw it too, when palliatives were given and it was stacked up somewhere and people were diverting it for their personal use. So these are issues. And one of the other issues that led to our food inflation is also insecurity. And that's why I said at the beginning of my speech that the issue of our national security is a matter that we cannot play politics with. It's something that can break our minds as a country. Look at what is happening in Bangladesh. Look at what is happening in Kenya. Look at what is happening in different. So if you are not careful, you can look at Mali, look at Guinea, look at Burkina Faso. These are countries that military is taking over. So we need to be very careful to be sure that. That's why I particularly like the press conference by the armed forces yesterday, that comprises the military, and we saw that they were trying to bring out solutions to say, let's look at immediate solutions to solve this problem so it does not degenerate. So insecurity is one of the issues that we're facing. That's why I have a farm somewhere in Wasimi, Abeokuta. To go there sometimes might be is always a problem for me because of our roads are not safe. Aside from bad roads, are not safe because anything can happen to you. Insecurity. That's why farmers are, aside from the herdsmen and farmers clash, even insecurity. Just last week, some people were bombed in Bonun. About 19 people died in the interior part of Bonun. So those are issues. So you are not sure what will happen to you because our roads. How many street lights do we have working? How many security operatives will you see on the road going to those farms? So farmers right now needs to be, a level of security needs to be provided for farmers. So we need to first of all identify those farms, those people doing well to say that they want to produce foods so that we can consume. We need to give them security because if somebody has invested millions of money in putting up a farm and they cannot even get there due to the fear of insecurity, that's a problem. And that's why we have gone back to the days of importation. To the slightest toothpick, we go back to import. So that's why. So the government, aside from giving them incentives, they need to provide securities for these farmers.
Speaking about security and how it affects food and agricultural production, do you really think that is an issue of the security operatives or architecture being overwhelmed or not really knowing how to nip all of these issues in the bud, or do we have to start looking in the light of maybe neighborhood security like that it is being done here in Lagos, or just maybe hunters association coming together to secure themselves, to secure farmers? Because at the end of the day, like you said, if we don't secure the lands, the farmers, we are the ones that suffer.
So the issue of security is a joint effort from not just the police, from even local operatives, from the neighborhood watch to vigilantes to. So I think there needs to be an holistic, formation in that area. Nigerian police force, like I said, we have just 371,800 policemen in Nigeria. They cannot effectively, secure the whole of the country. We have 774 local government. How do they want to, cover the whole of those areas? Even some parts of this Lagos, when something happens to you, before the policemen will get there, it might take them hours because of proximity issue and traffic issue. So those are issues. So the earlier there's a lot of synergy between Nigerian police force, neighborhood watch, and even local vigilantes to help provide succor and security for these farmers. It's not so much of a joyful thing to have invested millions of money into farming, and you cannot even wake up one morning and say you want to respect your farm because of the fear of what could happen to you on the road, because of the fear of being kidnapped, or because of the fear of even being killed on the road. So our security architecture needs to, something has to really change. The government needs to protect these farmers. So that's one of the root causes of where we are today as a country. A country where we have people that wants to willingly go into farming, but the insecurity is the fear. That is one of the setbacks that they have.
Okay, just the other day, the first lady came out with vegetables that she supposedly harvested, from
right inside 4 corners of her house.
4 corners of her house, and although it actually drew some sort of controversy as about the length of time and all of that, but the main discussion in all of that is subsistence farming. Now she was encouraging people to go back into farming, that you could actually plant some of the things that you need for yourself, maybe your vegetables and maybe your tomatoes and some other little things. But just how far do you think pockets of that can really go?
So I think that's also a good step for her, because I think that a lot of us have gardens in our houses that are just lying there, it's full with weeds and all that. So small, even immediate farming within our own compound can also help us. We cannot totally rely on local farmers alone. We ourselves can start to farm something as little as vegetable, as little as tomato at the backyard of our houses, and before you know it, it will gradually reduce the stress on these local farmers. Because how many local farmers do we even have? They are not much. A lot of them have been chased away because of the time that we had the herdsmen clash and all that. So that's why we're saying that let's also imbibe the culture of starting to produce something locally within our four corners of our houses, that would also reduce this stress on the food prices, because when people who have produced at a very high cost takes it to the market and they see that there's no so much demand, they will be forced to bring down the price, because just like in economics, the higher the demand, the higher the price. The lower the demand, the lower. So when they see that there's lower demand, they will be forced to bring down the price. But when they see that demand is high, everybody is bringing out, selling at different prices. And that's one of the problems that we have.
Okay, so as we go now, your final word on all of this as regards food security and food importation and reduction of taxes as we round off.
So again, for the Comptroller-General of Customs to come up with that, idea, I think is a novel idea. It will help us, in a short time. But again, we must be very careful not to allow it to scuffle the effort of our local farmers.
All right, we'll rest it at that. We need to encourage food production. We need to encourage our local farmers to produce, and even all the incentives that are being done or given by the federal government, we need to be sure that it is getting to the right farmers. And in as much as we say this all the time, government alone cannot do that. We need to put all hands on deck, to secure ourselves. So the local vigilantes and local hunters and neighborhood security can even do so much in terms of securing our land and farmers as we go on. Then it is also a call to state governments to do so much to ensure that agricultural production takes center stage in their state, so that way Nigerians can actually go to bed with food in their stomachs. That's the size of the show for today. I must say a very big thank you to you, Mustafa Iwinla, for your time.
Thank you,
and of course your wonderful input always on the show.
Thank you for
all right, my name is Justin Akadonia. Business Insights returns to your screen same time. Bye for now.